All right, let's jump right into this explainer and decode the hidden psychological toll your environment is taking on your brain. Most of us think about cognitive growth as reading books, doing puzzles, or learning new skills, right? But there is this entirely different side to the equation, this invisible architecture shaping your mind every single day. Today, we're talking about the absolute necessity of pruning your social circle. We're going to explore how certain people and dynamics are actively stalling your mental evolution, and how being a bit more ruthless with your environment can unlock a profoundly stronger version of yourself.
So let me ask you, have you ever had a day where you literally haven't lifted a finger, no heavy physical labor at all, yet you feel completely wiped out? If you're feeling perpetually drained, it's highly likely because your environment is forcing your brain to operate in a way it simply wasn't meant to. You see, people don't usually destroy their potential with one giant, explosive mistake. It's way more subtle. That exhaustion you're feeling, it's just a symptom of a heavy, mismatched environment constantly pulling on your cognitive resources.
It's wild, but negative environments literally rewire your brain, leading to what psychologists call a silent collapse. It's not an explosion. It's a slow, barely noticeable drain of your confidence, your mental clarity, and your strength. And the kicker? It's caused entirely by the habits and the people you passively choose to keep around you. When you just sort of tolerate these drains, your brain has to work overtime just to maintain a basic level of functioning. That leaves you with zero reserve energy for actual growth.
To really understand why this happens, we have to look at the underlying science. We're going to break down 5 specific archetypes blocking your cognitive growth, starting with the biology of how your mind automatically mimics the emotional states of people nearby. It's a phenomenon called emotional mirroring. Your brain is literally wired to sync up with the emotional frequency of the room. It's an ancient survival mechanism. But today, it means that if the people around you are operating at a low, chaotic, or negative frequency, your brain automatically tunes in to that exact same station. Okay, let's get into the specifics. Archetype number 1, the constant energy drainers.
These are the dramatic, highly negative individuals who make your daily life feel like you're wearing a weighted vest. Now, you don't need the people around you to be absolutely perfect, but you absolutely cannot have people who act as a permanent anchor. When you're constantly surrounded by complaining or manufactured crises, your mind copies that frantic frequency. And here is what happens. Your brain actually shifts out of thoughtful growth mode, where you use long-term reasoning and creativity, and plummets directly into survival mode. The negativity signals danger to your nervous system. Your brain thinks it needs to fight or flee, so you literally lose access to your higher-level thinking, prioritizing quick emotional reactions instead.
Moving on to the second one, archetype number 2, the external locus blamers. These are the folks who genuinely believe that life just happens to them, not because of them.
For these individuals, every single missed deadline, every failed relationship, every bit of bad luck, it is always someone else's fault. It's society, it's the economy, it's their boss. They never look inward. They only look outward to point fingers. This is known as having an external locus of control, and it is a deeply disempowering mindset. If everything is outside of your control, well, there's no point in trying to fix anything, right? And when you mirror these blamers, you start waiting for a rescue that is simply never going to arrive. That feeling of helplessness is incredibly contagious.
If you catch this mindset, the ultimate casualty is your self-pattern recognition. You literally lose the essential skill of noticing your own mistakes, which means you completely forfeit the ability to improve your future. Self-pattern recognition is the bedrock of cognitive growth. It's how we learn. But if you mirror that external locus of control, you become blind to your own flaws because your brain has been trained to just blame the outside world for everything. Next up, we encounter archetype number 3, the rigid critics. These are the illusionists who trap you in cognitive rigidity. They see the entire world in absolute extremes. Everything is 100% right or 100% wrong. No nuance, no gray areas, no debate. We've all met someone who fits this exact quote perfectly, right? Loud, certain, and absolutely wrong. It's so frustrating. When you try to introduce logic or evidence or just a different perspective, they don't process it intellectually. They react emotionally, like you're attacking their very identity. They completely confuse disagreement with disrespect.
Keeping these critics close forces you into this exhausting state of constant social vigilance. You're always walking on eggshells, monitoring your words just to avoid their next emotional explosion. And that explosion is usually driven by the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, they don't know enough to see their own blind spots, so they overestimate their skills. Trying to navigate around that drains a massive amount of your mental energy.
All right, Archetype number 4, the potential addicts.
These are the individuals who dream big and constantly talk about success, but they are addicted to the feeling of possibility, not the actual hard work. They read the books, they watch the explainers, but year after year, nothing in their reality changes. Let's look at the biological trap happening here. Step 1, they sit around and vividly imagine success. Step 2, the brain gets tricked and releases a massive hit of dopamine, the reward chemical. Step 3, because the brain feels like it already succeeded, the biological urgency to actually take action drops to 0.
And here is the danger for you. If you spend too much time hanging around these potential addicts, your brain will start to mistakenly confuse just thinking about a goal with actual progress. You get hooked on the dopamine of planning rather than the satisfaction of doing. Real growth requires hard, boring, unglamorous work. If your environment normalizes all talk and no execution, your own drive is going to slowly wither away.
Finally, we have perhaps the most insidious identity thief of all. Archetype number 5, the people-pleasing enablers. Now, these aren't mean people. Actually, they usually present as victims who desperately need your help, but they demand constant emotional labor and make their well-being your permanent responsibility, which often triggers old childhood fears of rejection. By trying to please these enablers, you suppress your own needs, and that completely erodes your self-concept clarity. Self-concept clarity is having a strong, unshakable sense of who you are, what your boundaries are, and what you value. But when you're constantly molding yourself to fit their needs, your own identity gets totally blurred.
These enablers thrive on your parentified habits, habits that probably started in childhood, where you learn to suppress your own needs just to keep the peace. By removing your need to be liked by people who exploit those habits, you finally win back the cognitive bandwidth you need to grow into who you actually are.
So how do we take all this and protect our own mental evolution? Listen, your mental energy is absolutely your most valuable resource. Wasting it on the drama of others effectively blocks your neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to adapt and grow. If you're constantly managing energy drainers, blamers, critics, fake progress addicts, and enablers, your mental evolution just stops. This is why you have to practice selective organization. Highly intelligent people know they can't care about everything. They put intense, focused energy into what matters, and they ruthlessly ignore what doesn't. You have to actively curate the inputs you allow into your mind.
Let's bring this all together. Looking at the big picture, every single one of these behavioral archetypes acts as a specific scientific threat to your cognitive growth. Constant drainers force you into survival mode. Blamers destroy your self-pattern recognition. Rigid critics lock you into cognitive rigidity. Potential addicts lure you into that dopamine trap. And enablers slowly erode your self-concept clarity. Shedding these weights doesn't just make you feel a little happier, it fundamentally alters the entire trajectory of your life. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a really hard look at your own social circle. Before we do our next deep dive into the human mind, ask yourself this absolutely critical question. Who is blocking your mental evolution? It's time to take inventory, practice some selective organization, and protect your most valuable resource. We don't just observe behavior here, we decode the minds that drive it. Keep analyzing, keep growing, and I'll see you in our next explainer.